Number 10. The Electric Chair. As one of the most charismatic talkers in WWE today, Sami Zayn has the opportunity to create magic on any given night if the WWE allows it. In recent years, reports have come out of WWE writing promos word for the roster, which is why the Electric Chair segment was announced. Promising an unfiltered look at the company, fans were quite excited. With the fans in attendance given a free platform to ask whatever questions came to their minds, Zayn tried his best in the chair when he appeared in May 2019. After lambasting the quality of questions and name-dropping AEW, Zayn's comments set the online wrestling world on fire, but this would mark the end for the Electric Chair. Shortly after, the segment was cancelled, and though nobody can say for sure why, it's likely that the former NXT champion mentioning the competition angered Vince McMahon. If McMahon introduced some guidelines about what he doesn't want to hear, then there's no reason the segment couldn't be brought back, but for now, we doubt that'll happen. Number 9. Post-match interviews. Professional wrestling tries to give the image that it is a legitimate sport, and to do that, they borrow several ideas from competitions such as football, baseball, or the Olympics. After the 2016 brand split, the company allowed their stars to be interviewed inside of the ring literally straight after their contests had ended, and this led to some quite memorable exchanges, and even an angle between The Miz and Renee Young. Some lower-card superstars were even able to showcase some of their personality after the matches, and having the exhausted stars did add a sense of realism to the predetermined show. In the years since, though, the post-match interview has almost entirely fizzled out, as it seems the company has once again decided against a promising concept. One day, Vince and his fellow execs may decide that they missed this alternative approach to prodding the stars, and we'll be right back to where we were in 2016 with interesting interviews after the bell. Number 8. Commissioner or General Manager Dynamics. For decades, WWE relied on authority figures in wrestling, but after the brand extension, the company had a slight change. Rather than just one authority figure controlling both brands, both Raw and SmackDown would receive two, a commissioner who organized events, as well as a general manager who booked matches. This led to some interesting dynamics, with Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan being particularly interesting, as the two often disagreed with what should be done on the blue brand, and Shane's rare appearances to handle more important matters made things feel like a big deal. After Bryan's miraculous return to the ring, Page took his spot, but in late 2018, the idea of GMs were scrapped, with the British superstar and Kurt Angle being the last general managers for now. Part of this cancellation can be placed on the fans who were rebelling against the idea of having these figures in such positions of prominence on weekly television. But rather than trying to discover what made the commissioner and GM role fit so well in the first place, the company got rid of the idea altogether. Number 7. The 2016 Draft Format. We've already spoken about how much the 2016 brand extension shook things up, but it's safe to say that the WWE was onto a winner 4 years ago. On the July 19, 2016 edition of SmackDown, the WWE split the roster in two and added to the aesthetic of the show with commissioners and general managers vying for top stars. The night certainly had some huge shocks, with Finn Balor being drafted in the first round, whilst John Cena had to wait until the second round to be chosen. With everything happening in one night, there was an unmissable feel to the show, though WWE has now replaced the one-night event with a clunky two-night superstar shakeup. In 2019, a draft brought back the hand-selected excitement to a certain degree, but without authority figures, Stephanie McMahon was left to announce each pick on her lonesome, which bored the crowd. Simply put, the 2016 one-night draft system wasn't broken, but that didn't stop WWE trying to fix it in the years since. Number 6. Fan-voted stipulations. Long before everyone and their mother had a Twitter account to bash the product, WWE had the idea to allow their fans to have their voices heard over the show. In 2004 and 2005, the WWE held Taboo Tuesday, which allowed fans to vote on match stipulations as well as who competed. And from 2006 to 2008, the show became Cyber Sunday, with polls taking place on the WWE website. It was genuinely exciting for fans to think they had at least some control over a show, but after the 2008 pay-per-view, the idea was scrapped as the company brought in match-specific shows like TLC and Hell in a Cell. Aside from the odd Raw poll, which often gave fans 3 very similar choices, the company has kept clear of fans-voted matches, though no reason has been given. In an era where WWE is fixated on social media, you would have thought that this is an idea the company would be eager to use, so hopefully the idea of fan-voted stipulations will be brought back soon enough. Number 5. The AMBROSE ASYLUM match. This is a match that fans either loved or hated, but regardless of how you feel about it, the AMBROSE ASYLUM certainly got fans talking. A one-of-a-kind affair, the match saw weapons being hung from the top of a steel cage, meaning that escape was impossible for the combatants, and the weapons could be used to achieve a win in the ring. The only ever ASYLUM match took place between Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho at Extreme Rules 2016. And aside from one very painful-looking spot with Jericho and thumbtacks, the match was a relatively tame affair. Seeing that the fans didn't like this encounter, the match was quickly scrapped, though we can't help but think that the ASYLUM concept would be great to see take place at an NXT TakeOver show, with stars like Finn Balor and Tommaso Ciampa tearing each other apart in the cage, which would have, of course, been stripped of any mention of the lunatic fringe. Number 4. Scrapping automatic rematches. This recent idea from WWE only lasted a couple of months, but it tore up a clause that has been written into imaginary wrestling contracts for decades. For as long as fans can remember, champions who lost their titles would receive a rematch, and often, this would see a handful of stars hot potato the belt to keep the feud going. A side effect of this idea, though, was that some feuds would lead to dull, repetitive matches, clogging up WWE programming. But in December 2018, the McMahons announced a new rule that scrapped the concept of automatic rematches. For the first time in a while, new matchups were brought into the mix and fans were given the chance to see fresh stars challenge for the titles, until the company quickly did a U-turn on the idea. Even recently, Rey Mysterio challenged for the United States title he lost to Andrade mere days earlier, and with no example of the 619 Master earning this title match, it seems WWE is back to the automatic rematch. Number 3. SmackDown Live's ranking systems. We mentioned earlier that WWE has tried to give the impression of being like real sports, and in early 2018, the WWE tried a new approach. Much like how sports will have league tables, SmackDown Live tried out a top 10 list which would rank the best performers on the blue brand, and also gave the choice of which stars would make the exclusive rankings to the fans, who decided on WWE.com. The idea behind the ranking was that it could lead to a wealth of possible angles, including stars who had been left off the list, as well as performers who didn't agree with their position on it. Unfortunately, the SmackDown Live ranking system never got off the ground, as it essentially boiled down to a popularity contest, though if WWE had introduced a scoring system based on wins and losses, then it certainly could have lasted. Instead, Vince McMahon scrapped the idea quickly after its inception, and fans were back to second-guessing who was rightfully next in line for a title match. Number 2. Talking Smack. Arguably the most universally celebrated part of the WWE 2016 brand extension, Talking Smack was the post-show to the Blue brand, and helped give SmackDown a new identity on its new home of the USA Network. After years being seen as the B show and with fans able to look up results days in advance, SmackDown was once again in a prominent position, and Talking Smack was the perfect addition to the new lineup. Allowing superstars to keep stories and their characters going after SmackDown Live had finished, the show's most infamous moment came when The Miz cut an incredible work-shoot promo, making the A-lister the most discussed star of the week. If WWE had just kept Renee Young on the show, and maybe drafted in someone like Paige or even CM Punk, there's no reason why Talking Smack couldn't have been around today. But like many items on this list, the WWE canceled the show without any real reason. Instead of an off-the-cuff, quirky panel of fun on the WWE Network, the fans have received a poor replacement in Backstage, and despite the presence of CM Punk, the show still continues to suffer on Fox. Number 1. The Mixed Match Challenge. As we've discussed, the WWE in recent years has made a clear attempt to use social media, and in January 2018, the company partnered with Facebook Watch to present the Mixed Match Challenge. Initially, fans recoiled at the idea of yet another throwaway show in the same vein of Superstars, Main Event, or Saturday Morning Slam, but it didn't take long for the online broadcast to develop its own identity. Seen as separate to what was happening on RAW and SmackDown, the challenge allowed stars like Sami Zayn and Becky Lynch to indulge in their natural charisma at a time where the main shows hid this, whilst Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman got themselves even more over in the intergender tournament. With the fact that the first season winners Asuka and The Miz received $100,000 to their charity, the show was an enjoyable mix of fun and adventure against the sometimes grueling main roster TV. After the second season ended with the winners instead receiving the number 30 spot in the 2019 Royal Rumble matches, the challenge was quietly cancelled, presumably down to poor viewing figures and several replacements being needed for stars who got injured. Perhaps if the show had stuck to the original prize and let the stars cut loose, the Mixed Match Challenge would have taken place in 2019. But for now, it seems the intergender contest is gone for good. Well guys, that's our list. Let us know what you think down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please also check out our top 10 video, 10 Shocking WWE Surprises Planned for 2020. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so that you don't miss out on any updates we post on our channel.